Anyway, so of course, Sangha is one of the classic three treasures of Buddhist practice, and is in many ways the way of Buddha, the Buddhist way of life. And like the awakened mind in the teachings, Sangha is also a refuge and a gateway to awakening. Sometimes I think we take Sangha for granted. We don't think about it as much as we think about the Buddha and the Dharma. So I think it's good, maybe once in a while, to reflect on its importance and value and remind ourselves of how strong it is, how important it is in our practice, and what a strong refuge it is. We tend to think of Buddhist practice as centered on solitary meditation. And it is in one way, but in another, it's not. Because even in solitary meditation, we're not alone. We're radically one with all existence. But those are just philosophical words, unless we experience fully with our whole body, heart, and mind our connection with each other and through each other, all existence. Zen practice was originally a monastic practice, of course, and it arose out of the yearly gathering of itinerant disciples of the Buddha in the rainy season. You can imagine the monks arriving, probably mostly on foot, having traveled far and wide, sharing stories, preparing food and eating together, setting up camp, greeting old friends and making new ones, asking questions of the Buddha and listening to his teachings, and meditating together. So in a way, our little Sangha is a mini, and our Maha Sangha, which is you guys, and there are 4 times as many of you today than there are of us here. But our little Sangha is like a mini monastery, and now it's interesting to reflect that our mini monastery is digital. But it does give us a little flavor of, for just a couple of hours every week, and of course our retreats, which we do for longer periods of time, give us a kind of mini experience of the monastic life. And there's a synergy about doing this, I think. Meditating together is so supportive. It really makes a difference. It made a very big difference in my own practice to have the support of a group. And when I was thinking about this morning, I was thinking, I can actually feel what that feels like in my body. It's a unique sensory experience, and it makes a difference. And then, of course, meditation is in itself a refuge, but doing it together enhances that refuge quality to me. When you do a longer retreat, even without talking, you share something that's hard to describe. You feel close to the other people, even if you don't know their names. You shared something, and its wordless meaning has dawned on you. When we gather week after week, we connect with each other in our shared commitment to practice, and a community forms. We listen to each other and support each other. We work and take care of each other and our sacred space. Problems arise and we solve them together. Sometimes there are difficulties. Emotions can flare, and we learn to soothe them and reconcile. Being together, we rub off each other's rough spots. Without each other, it's easy to get caught in what Joko Beck calls the self-centered dream. Without the abrasion of Sangha, we'd just bump around hurting each other in our world. Maybe Al and Linda remember where the idea of having a Zen group in the foothills came from, and when we first talked about it. Do you guys remember that? I don't even remember our first conversations about forming a group. we've known each other for many years, and we'd all been students of Grace Shearson, who founded Empty Nest Zendo, Zen Center of Fresno, and a group in Modesto. I can't remember the Modesto group name at the moment. My ordination had been reinstated by Baika, and she returned my robes to me in May of 2016. We rented space at the Old Mill Yoga Center here in Oakhurst, and we bought zafus and zabatons and made an altar with a little folding table and a black tablecloth. My husband, Steve, let us use an old plastic storage shed for all of our stuff, and we set up and took down our Zendo every Sunday. Our first meeting was on Sunday, July 17th, 2016. And we made tea in the bathroom, and people came because there wasn't a kitchen of any sort. We had an introductory meeting at the Oakhurst Library to which we invited the public. And I have a little PowerPoint about Zen Buddhism that I gave, and some people who attended that later came to our sitting. But soon we realized that we needed our own space, and we started looking for various, for what might be available. And we tried meeting at the studio in North Fork, but we ran into scheduling problems there, and also we still had the same issues with storage. So we looked for commercial space in Oakhurst, and we looked at several spaces, and we kind of fell in love with one, but it was much more expensive than this one. And we weren't quite pleased with this space, which had not been used for a couple of years. And so it was, there was, kind of some trash on the floor and stuff like that. But we began to think it could work, and the rent was relatively reasonable. And especially we liked this window that it faces the mountains. So, and it had with, the natural light, which many spaces don't have. So this space is in a commercial building that had been built in the 80s. I would guess it had been built fairly cheaply. And our space, which is in the corner downstairs, the driveway enters at the other end of the building, so we're kind of in a quiet corner down here at the end. And but this space had originally been a barber shop, and there is actually, and I guess later it had been converted, that the plumbing had been covered over, and some of it, and so some things, couldn't be removed to make this space, a little more workable. But we did the best we could, and Steve, my husband, had the idea for the shoji screen, which created an entryway for us, and still leaving, a good-sized room for a zendo. And we enclosed a small room at the back that had a keyhole, creating a private area, a founder's room that where can have practice discussion or meditation instruction. In the old days before the pandemic, when people would arrive and need meditation instruction before sitting with us. So, and then we had the space repainted and bought a rug. And fortunately, the color of the floor is tile, and there's a space that is outlined with black tile. The tile is the same color as the walls, kind of a sort of a pale gold color. And there's a space marked out with black tile in which the rug fits really well. And the rug is meant to sort of look like, Japanese, what's it called? Tatami, yeah. So so that's sort of the idea. And then we experimented with where to put the altar. We put it in different places in the room, and finally we realized this, having it behind me here was the best way to have it. And it was a big relief not to have to set up and take down every Sunday. Later, we replaced the cheap bamboo and paper shades that we had put up initially over the windows with sturdy, made-to-order fitted shades. And we did a simple remodel in the kitchenette to make it more usable for arranging flowers and preparing tea. Some of you may not know, but we used to offer tea and snacks along with the Dharma talk, but since the pandemic, we decided not to do that anymore. And we moved into this space on the first Sunday of November 2016, giving us a month to settle in before our official opening, which we celebrated on December 10th of 2016, a Saturday. And Baika and Jeff came down, and we had a dedication and a party. It's a really wonderful space, and we're lucky to have it. We've had our Sundays. We've sewn rakusus here. We've celebrated jukais here. We've had our Zen 101 Learn to Meditate. We did that monthly for a while. And we've had movie nights here. And the generosity of the Sangha has made it possible. But most of all, we've come together as a Sangha. We've formed a community. The Sangha is strong. We've weathered the pandemic and created a hybrid that makes it possible for you at a distance to participate. We've trained people as Doan, Kokyo, Tenzo, Ino, even though we don't use that word, but so much, and Doshi. And so today we celebrate the Buddha's enlightenment that has percolated down through the centuries to bring his teaching to Oakhurst, planting the seed of Sangha to grow the sheltering refuge of Bodhi Oak Zen Center right here. So I would love to know your own reflections on Sangha and what it has meant to you. And yeah, so please share some thoughts with us.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So the name, I love the name Bodhi Oak because it describes our environment and it's also about the Bodhi tree. And I'm wondering how that name came about since I wasn't around that.
All right. Well, the idea was that, the Buddha's own profound enlightenment experience took place under a tree, a ficus tree in Varanasi, and so what I thought was, you don't have to go to Varanasi and sit under a ficus tree to awaken, and that using oak tree, bringing an oak was the idea that even here in this little place, with these beautiful oak trees, awakening can happen. So that's where it came from. And then we also have a Japanese name, Rin Takuji. I guess maybe the Japanese don't have oak trees because we couldn't find a word that translates oak. Rin is forest. And Taku is about, it refers to crossing over, from the shore of suffering to the shore of awakening. So that's Bodhi. That's like Bodhi. And Ji is temple. So Rin Takuji is the Japanese name of our temple. Yeah.